Hello, everyone, and welcome to stage 5 of the SHEries. Today, our ladies will be taking on the first of our 2 points races, where we'll see them tackle 5 or 6 laps of the Seaside Sprint route in Watopia. In this race, riders will be looking to score big on the fastest through segment sprints. This means that on every lap, they can score up to 50 points based on how fast they complete the sprint against their competition. There are also bonus points of up to 150 for the final finishing position in their category. Joined by Ben and Craig. Ben, I believe the Ds have already set off.
Yes, they have. They've just left a pen and gone under the lap banner. So tonight in the Ds, I'm following Margaret Brown, who's one of our herd ladies. And she is settling into the second group on the road, it looks like. So, no, third, sorry. So a bit of effort here, and she might be able to make up the next one. But we'll see if she actually goes for that.
Believe you've had a quick look at the route already over the last couple of days. Where are we expecting to see the pinch points on this one?
So I have. I've been travelling for work, so I have had very little else to do. So I tend to believe that the S's are easier in this direction. The pinches are less vicious and a bit easier to roll through. But that last climb up before the sprint, that's going to be a big one. And up into the volcano. They're our two nasty pinch points. And so we'll see how they go in those points.
Very good. And this week, our starting times are slightly different because the race is a bit longer. We have 4 minutes between each category. So, in terms of UK time, the Ds set off at 10, the Cs at 10:04, the Bs 10:08, and the As will be at 10:12. So, the Cs will be setting off in a couple of minutes' time. So, with today's race, we've got the Cs and Ds doing 5 laps compared to the As and Bs doing 6. So I think we're looking at around about 32 and 36 kilometers, and I will double check the distances in a second. But yeah, no, I think it should be a fun race. We'll be seeing lots of sprints. So yeah, definitely favour the higher wattage of the ladies with good sprints. Ben, would you like to do this sort of race?
I absolutely adore these sorts of races. With my faintly ludicrous absolute upper watt limit, this sprint in particular is an absolute favourite. A downhill run into it. You hit the sprint line doing nearly 60 k's an hour. It's fantastic. Yes, I would absolutely adore to be doing this race, James.
And it is a nice short sprint as well.
Yeah, at full power, this thing can take only 10-12 seconds if you're really giving it the beans. So we'll see how we go. So Margaret making her way through the S's. Unfortunately, she looks like she's by herself now, so that's going to be a long and lonely ride.
And the Cs have just set off. So the Bs will follow in about 4 minutes. Just on the route distance, we have 5 or 6 laps of 6.3 kilometers. The lead-in is at the end of the first sprint after 3 kilometers of a race. So we will be looking at 39 kilometers for the As and Bs and 33 for the Cs and Ds.
It's a decent length race as well. That's not bad for a points race. I quite like that idea.
Yeah, so we've had our prologue and our 3 short races. They're all sort of in the region of half an hour, and we've got a couple of longer points races. So we've got this race today, and then we've got 2 laps of Harrogate next Tuesday, which will have 2 sprints and 2 KOMs in each lap. Looks like Craig has found Vicky Howarth and Nat Roberts in the Seas, and they are both ticking along quite nicely.
So it looks like the front of the D race has gone through the sprint point. Margaret is coming up to it at a good clip. Going to be hitting the line just over 50 k's an hour. Hopefully gets up and has a go. And she's doing okay. She's pushing. She's trying to push through on the sprint point, but maybe just a bit long for Margaret here. What we do seem to have is Kim James, one of the riders from our koalas in Zone 1, is also in the race. So we might go see if we can find her as well. Bear with me.
The bees should be setting off in the next couple of minutes as well, so we'll see Elrenik in action shortly. Seeing if I can see any other herd names in there as well. Hopefully we'll see a couple others as we go through the race. Yep, no, you're absolutely right. I think Marilyn was signed up, but I'm not sure if she's actually racing this morning. She'll probably do the next race afterwards. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Lisa's definitely in there as well. And going by last week, her and Elrenik were pretty close. So we'll see who wins that little inter-team battle.
So I can say for that little inter-team, there's been a bit of a chat in the Quackers team chat. A little bit of banter going around about this race, and it's great to see.
A little bit of friendly competition never did anyone any harm whatsoever.
No, I'm a big fan of friendly competition, as every other team time trial captain is aware.
Very much so. The bees have just taken off, so Elrenik is at the front of the pack. And I don't know, Craig, going by the seas, does it settle down a bit after the first sort of half a kilometre? I think I would personally expect it not to settle until after the first sprint, and under the assumption that everyone's going for a sprint, you'll expect it to calm down a little bit after that, I would think.
The big catch with that is that if it does settle, or you expect it to settle and back off yourself, you may end up getting caught out.
Yeah, absolutely.
If the pace doesn't drop as much as you expect. So what you want to be doing is you want to be backing off, but not back off completely, and not be first person to back off.
Yeah, so... Oh dear. It's the one thing you can't account for, sadly. Okay, good. So I think it looked like Vicky came 5th in the first sprint. Great job. The Bs are just heading into the S's now. Elronic is definitely in the front group. Trying to see if I can spot Lisa Jones. Yeah, just behind her. So Lisa's in there as well.
So our second group of Ds, which is where Kim James is, are just approaching the volcano banner. So this is the other spanner in this course, in my opinion, is that with this course, whilst there's only the one prime, you get 2 power-ups a lap, which could make for some interesting tactics. So I'm assuming we just have the standard power-ups available tonight, James?
I suspect it would be even more interesting if power-ups were enabled.
Are they not?
No.
That's annoying. It'd be nice to do my homework properly then, wouldn't it, gentlemen?
To be honest, I didn't tell you, so it's partly my fault. It was entirely unintentional, and a couple of people mentioned to me last week that there didn't seem to be any power-ups, and I then looked, realised they're actually turned off, and forgot to do something about it. But actually, to be fair, I quite like the idea of no power-ups. It's all done on ability rather than whether or not you're lucky enough to get a feather or an arrow at the right time. So, no power-ups today, and probably no power-ups for the rest of the series. I may bring them back for the second one, but we will see. Just on the bees, Elronic is happily in the front group as we just take on the last of the S's. So that's a steep one at the end. We'll just stay with this for a minute whilst they come round to the sprint. So just on the downhill section now before they turn left, and then it's all out for 200 metres. And just taking the left-hand turn now. And here we go. Sprint line, Elronic, 470, 490, going really hard. Coming up to the banner, it looks like it's a good effort here. And across the line, probably about 8th wheel, I'd say. Unfortunately, it's impossible for us to tell how they've done individually on each sprint, just because the leaderboards take into account a lot of numbers. But it looks like Lisa Jones may have actually come second in that sprint, so great job, Lisa. Now we'll see if it settles down at all. Elronic is holding the front group at around about 3.2 to 3.4, so I suspect it's settled down a little bit after the sprint. We'll just see what sort of pace is continued to be held. Ben, I think we've got some people inside the volcano.
There are people inside the volcano, and the front of D's is actually, well, through the volcano. So we're hitting the S's again. So pushing on through there. Looks like Margaret is pushing through the volcano. Sorry, trying to run about 3 different devices at once. So Craig knows all about that. So yes, everything seems to be ticking along nicely in the D race. Kim is sitting in a nice little group of 3 riders. Margaret is toddling along.
Craig, it looked like Vicky and Nat are both in the front group of the C's.
So an interesting little spanner that I've just noticed is that the A riders have just taken off and are hitting the S's. And that's going to be right in time to cause some chaos with the D race. So that could be very, very interesting timing if the A girls really kick on over the top of this. And here they come through the little D group.
Always adds a little bit more to the tactical side of a race when you do see other categories come through. I mean, obviously with the A's going through the D's, we're not going to expect any of the D's to be able to hang on to the A's, but if the B's overtake the C's or the A's overtake the B's, then certainly some riders could potentially try to hang on and try and build a bit of a gap to some of their competitors. The B's are going on around about 3 watts a kilo, so it's looking like they're going to go fairly steady, probably kick things up over the S's and then for the sprint. But we're 5.5 kilometres through and just going through the volcano at the moment.
So Kim's just hitting the sprint. She's having a red hot go. Sorry, my picture is probably not very good because it's not even good on my screen. But the A's threw down some truly spectacular Beckerish numbers. Probably missing her.
How the C's doing, Craig? Yeah, I think that's definitely the best way of doing it because you'll be able to maximise the draft as you try and push through. We are coming up towards the S's in the B's. So we are over the bridge linking the volcano to the mainland, and we are just about to hang a turn onto the very start of the S's. So we're about a minute or two away from the second sprint of this race. What are you seeing in the D's, Ben? Is your picture come back a bit?
Yes, my picture's steadied a bit. I think I touched something and it just told me very politely not to. So Kim is pushing across the land bridge back into the volcano. There's been a little bit of splitting in her group. One of her riders is off the front and one has been dropped. So 4 is down to 2. We'll see how they go pushing up and into the volcano. A tricky little section if you're not expecting it to be as nasty as it is. So we'll see how they go.
Sounds good. We are halfway through the S's and the B's. Just see what appears to be a couple of C's a little bit up the road. So they'll probably get swallowed up around a similar sort of time to the sprint. Got two more turns of the S's left, and then we'll be back to that sprint for another 200 meters of fun and joy. Certainly be interesting to see the sort of how much people attack the second sprint and obviously the subsequent ones as well after the legs start to get a bit tired. But we're just on the steepest part of the S's at the moment. Doesn't appear to be anyone shooting off the front just yet, so I think everyone's just sitting in for the sprint. And that will be coming up very shortly as we just round the corner and start to take on the downhill. As we just overtake one of the C's. We're just going downhill now, and then we'll hang the left-hand corner towards the sprint. RNX still in the front group. I've definitely seen Lisa in there as well. See Lam Kong, the rider who's won at least one of the events so far. But here we are back on the sprint. And everything's kicking up again. LRN managing bigger numbers this time, well into the 500s. Kicking on hard. And over the line. And beat a previous time by about 0.15 seconds, so great job there. How the C's doing?
So the D's are very much broken up. So we have a group at the front, ticking along, and then a series of strung out solo riders. For me, the big one here is making sure that the work was done and the initial point to try to stick with the first group. Kim is doing a fantastic job riding the wheels that she's presented, but she's not got that many to surf. It would be she'd be doing a lot better, a lot easier in a bigger group, which just, again, that's racecraft, and that's what a lot of these ladies are developing, which is great to see.
That D field looks very, very fragmented.
Yeah, it's very fragmented. I don't have a huge amount of ability to go search around in it, but there's, I think the biggest group you'll find outside the front 4 or 5 will be this one of two riders. So it's going to be a long day for some of these ladies.
Yeah, looking at Zwift Power, the front group of D's only appears to be about 5 riders, and then massive time gaps everywhere. So definitely split up quite a bit already. Back in the B's, we have a front group that is... Well, I think everyone's in the front group. I don't think there's been any splits at all. Just going off Zwift Power, so everyone's in there. The pace has been relatively nice either side of a sprint. Probably around about 3.0 to 3.2. So the ladies are taking it easy between the segments and then going really hard on the sprint itself. So I think they've all got the right idea. We'll see how that develops.
Sounds like they may have accidentally listened to a Pink Tron cast.
Yeah, well, no, you don't learn things from Pink Tron. It's just generally three guys talking absolute rubbish, and Becca as well with her insights that actually make sense. Back in B's, just
audible
into
eye
volcano.
rolls.
And audible eye rolls. Back in the B's, we are just into the volcano yet again. We are about 12 kilometers through. So that'll leave 27 to the end of the race. What's going on overseas, Craig? Thought you were going to say,
our strategy is to hit it. But yes, they seem to have done that very well from what I can see. The C bunch is about to collect my D pair, which could be an absolute boon being where they are. So just pushing up over that last rise before the sprint. If they can get far enough up that, they may be able to get the ride down through the sprint point. But the C's are catching fast. Yes, so they'll need to push hard now to make a move because the C bunch has gone through. It looks like they've let it go. Not the tactical move I would have made. I would have treated that as the sprint because I would get more benefit from that than I would from actually sprinting in a pair.
Just talking about the girl who went off the front. Obviously, that's not really a tactic that you want to be using in this sort of race because you will lose the draft on the sprint, and that way your sprint times will be slower and you'll pick up less points. So, might be great if you're able to finish the race in first, but you don't want to be making a very long effort to try and do so. Back to the Bs. We are just about to head back onto the S's again. Everyone is still in the main group.
So Kim has just gone through the sprint point. It looks like she's starting to suffer. She didn't really kick on for that. And her riding buddy did. I'm just waiting to see if riding buddy is going to sit up enough for Kim to catch back up. So could have ended up being completely split on here. How'd they go through in the C's, Craig?
Great job, Margaret. In the Bs, we are just taking on the last of the S's before we head downhill, turn left, and do the sprint for the third time. So see how they get on here. Lam Kong currently has the best time over sprint at 11.77 seconds. So Ben, you called it when you said it was going to be about an 11 or 12 second sprint. Definitely one of the fun ones.
Yeah, it's a great sprint effort if you've got the raw watts to really give it some berries. Because as I said, you come down into it, you're going so fast already. It's more a matter of actually holding speed than trying to make speed. So, if you get this one right, lots of time to be made.
Yeah, and I think you want to probably start the sprint effort well before the start of the sprint, probably as soon as you make that left-hand turn.
So I actually start going from well before that, actually. My sprint effort for me, I tend to start ramping up about halfway down the descent. So I'm hitting 4.5, 5 watts a kilo before I even go around the bend, and as a top C, that's starting to get up there in the power. Because yeah, I want to make sure I'm going as fast as I can going around that left-hand corner.
So you're holding your max speed going over the line. The Bs have been through the sprint. I think looks like Ellerinique actually managed to put another 10th on her previous time. So great job there, up to 12.71. So we've had three. We've got 3 sprints to go. The C's and D's, the final sprint to the line will be classified, but the A's and B's, it will just be the finish line that will be classified. So we'll see how those points work out after the race has concluded. But looking like every single one of the B's is still in the main group.
So my pair, or my quartet of D riders, broke down into a duet, which is now down to Kim by herself. But interestingly enough, there's a number of scattered C riders just at the back here, and they're slowly moving through. And some of these D riders are doing a great job of picking up those wheels and surfing them for a little bit of time until they end up getting dropped for whatever reason. Kim just got left behind on one of the rises in the volcano. So if you can pick up one of those riders, there's good time to be made on your competitors.
Yeah, pretty much identical. It looks like Margaret's found some friends. Yeah, I was seeing her on a TT as well, but are these people she's caught up with, or are they? Ah, well done. Yeah, I actually think Margaret might have started on the TC bike, which may have been why she lost the pack early on, which is unfortunate, but definitely a learning experience. But she's done a great job to bridge back to these guys as well, and looks like she's going along quite nicely. In the Bs, we are just going through the volcano again, and just going over the banner in the middle of the volcano. We are at 8.5 kilometers with about 20 to go, so pretty much halfway point for this race. So we're looking at almost exactly 1 hour to complete, assuming the pace remains similar. But you expect that to ramp up on the last lap. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think with the last sprint in VAs and Bs not being classified and it just being positioned over the line, I would expect that to ramp in the last lap. But I think the Cs and Ds, for everyone who's understood how the race works, I would expect the pace to remain probably quite similar and then just go really hard on the final sprint.
It'll be interesting to see how many have actually worked that out. Because for me, on my read, I didn't pick it up until you guys told me in the pre-show. So it'll be interesting to see. And but I would predict that the race will ramp up as much as it will as a C and D race. I know I'd actually try to knock people off just because I can be a bit of a bastard in a race.
So, and it will be, even in the C's and D's, it will be the interplay between the riders that think that think that they have a better chance at the fastest time, or think that they can get more points by dropping their competitors. So even with the fastest time sprint, there's still the potential for that to accelerate quite a bit.
Yeah, because it's not going to be very common for the fastest sprint prime to be set on the last lap. So if you can do it on the front or in that front group, that's where it's most likely going to be. And if you can make that group smaller, then and you are a rider that's got a decent sprint, it actually could be quite significantly to your benefit.
Okay, the C's are on the sprint again. Both Vicky and Natalie hitting this really hard with high sixes watts per kilogram, and Natalie set a new best for the race. So good on you. That's hard to do this far in.
The Bs are just starting the S's. I actually wonder with pace the Bs are going, and they've definitely dropped well into the twos outside of the sprint. I wonder if the Bs are actually going to catch the Cs.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you, James. That's a big enough gap still that they might not, or they well might. It all depends, but no, which is odd. That's usually the one catch that always happens, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the B group is still 18 out of 18 riders, so just the size of group might result in them catching, but the pace they're doing is probably not. Well, it's essentially a C pace, so could well see the C's hold out over the duration. So we will see. But we are onto the last of the S's, just hitting the ramp now, and then we will take on the sprint for the fourth time.
No, I think so.
So Kim is just coming down to it, so she's about to accelerate into it, hitting the line as touch over 50 k's an hour. So Good start point. Not much kick left though, unfortunately. James, you guys will be getting really close right now.
Yep, we're just on the downhill bit before we turn left and then hit the sprint. So very, very close indeed. And just turning left now, and watching the watts ramp up. Alorenic holding 6-7 watts a kilo. Definitely not hitting the sort of 400-500 watts we saw earlier, but they are going as best as they can. And it's another PB, up another 0.2 to 12.52. So I think Inc. has got the sprint pretty much sussed from when she starts to go. On the first lap, she kicked pretty much on the sprint start line, and she's now beaten that time by over half a second. So she's definitely been going earlier, even if she hasn't been hitting the sort of raw watts that she had in the first couple of sprints. Her times are faster.
There's a lot to be said for knowing the course and actually knowing when and where your sprint points are. Because the green line, all that's showing is where the segment starts. It's not actually where you should be kicking.
I know her husband Tatum is de-essing for her today and probably jumping up and down like a bit of a lunatic. So he's probably tried to pass on that information as well. But no, sounds like she's definitely got the technique on the sprint sussed out, certainly over the last couple of laps. So great to see negative splits on every single one of the sprints so far. So brilliant job there.
I'm sure that would have Tatum very, very happy as a platypus. He tends to love that sort of stuff.
He gets very excited.
So we are seeing no, it's coming back together now. There was a little bit of a split with Natalie at the front and Vicky on the back of it up the volcano ramp, but it didn't look like the front group really wanted to try to make it stick. So looks like everything's back together. They dropped one rider on that, I think. So
let's get a little update on Margaret, because I believe she's now up to 12th spot.
She is, and she's doing quite well. So those two riders she had reeled in before, she's now 20 and 30 seconds ahead of. So she's definitely rolling this one hard.
Yeah, great job to catch and then, well, drop them by quite a margin.
So Margaret has a really good, strong 20-minute power. So it was basically, if she could get everything right, she could do very well on this ride. So if she's on a TT bike, she's putting some good time in, and a TT bike will be fairly quick through those sprint crimes.
Yeah, absolutely, and definitely helped to catch those guys in front of her. So we will catch back up with Margaret in a bit, but just in terms of the bees, they're just doing the ramp up into the volcano. Could be one of the sort of 2 or 3 spots where maybe on the last lap we might see a bit of an effort going up here, but certainly for now we are seeing 4 watts a kilo as we hit around 5-6-7% on the little incline, but this is still staying together very nicely. Don't think any of the bees have dropped off, but it is single file at the moment, but I expect that this will come back together very quickly.
Yes, I would be very surprised if there wasn't fireworks on the final lap. So the D riders got a little bit in the way of that B group, and there was a little bit of splintering as they went through, but they all recovered fairly well and fairly quickly to get back into the main group. That was from my perspective on that one.
And Bs are all back together again.
So as far as the C's go, they're still in a really tight group. There looks like a fight. It's really a fight for back wheel more than a fight for front wheel here. So everybody's trying to save as much energy as they can. It does look like there may be somebody trying a little bit of foolishness now, which is probably a good time to try it. And so the front of the C's is starting to trail out a little bit. So really good. And I'm sorry, guys, I've lost count. Is this lap 5 or lap 4?
We've had 4 sprints.
I was just trying to work that out myself, actually. I've completely lost count too. James, can you run us through the distances again, since you've got them handy?
It was 39 kilometres for the race. In terms of the individual sprints, Facebook always makes these things so easy to find, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. So that's a better part of a 7 kilometre loop. Is that
6?
Is that about right for you guys?
It is 6.3 kilometres per lap.
Okay.
No worries. So mid-30s for early 30s for our C's and D's, and 39 for our B's and A's.
Yeah. So this is the last lap for the C's, and they are approaching the finish. The B's are definitely not going to come anywhere near them. I think they've stretched it out with this last lap. And it looks like our herd heroes here are positioning themselves for the last sprint. So I guess here you get into the, do you position yourself for the fastest time or the first over the line? And to me, it's no question, it's for first over the line, and you get the whatever time you do.
I would agree with that. That's exactly where I would go for as well, because in my mind, they tend to go hand in hand.
The S's and the B's, and once they hit the sprint, they will have 2 laps left to go.
Oh, what great sprint. And Natalie is right in the front row. It looks like Natalie was definitely towards the front. It looks like both Natalie and Vicky may have gotten top 10. Very strong finishes there.
I think they've still got a lap left, Craig.
I think you may be right. Yes, you are.
Another professional herd racing league broadcast.
Excellent. I won't mention that my microphone was off for the first 3 laps.
No, we guessed, mate. We guessed. So our D's are just entering the S's again for their second last effort through. So a bit of time still on that. Looks like the B's are approaching the last climb, James.
They are indeed. And then they will head through sprint number... Oh, I've lost count. It's probably 5. Must be 5. They've got 2 laps left to go. Yeah, BB up their 5th sprint, with 1 more classified sprint on the penultimate lap, and then it'll be positioned over the line on the final one. But we are over the top of the final of the S's, and we're just heading downhill. It has actually split, well, not quite split, but it's definitely single file. We may have one off the front, but I think it's coming back together now. We're going downhill. We're just taking a left-hand turn before the sprint, and watch for Watts go up. 7 watts a kilo from Lorraine Inc. It's definitely looking like a really solid sprint here. And over the line, good effort. Actually, the first time she hasn't beaten her previous lap, but I suspect it's probably a fairly similar pace to the last one, but definitely well positioned in the field. What's going on with the Seas?
Yeah, so one rider off the front going across the land bridge looks like same rider that's tried it several times, but other than that, it's basically still the same group as far as we go. So I guess let's check in with the D's. Ben, how's it going?
So Kim is just approaching the descent down to the sprint line again. She's gone a little bit off the wheel of the girl in front of her, 4 seconds in fact. So if she can get a good run at it, that could be a nice draft to pick back up as she comes through the line. So down she goes, and about to take the left and the right onto the bridge. And hopefully a bit of kick to get across here. Yes, little bit of a kick, but the girl in front of her has kicked harder, so the gap is not closing. Another reasonably good sprint from Kim to try to get across here. Another good effort.
Yeah, they're just on the stretch coming up to the volcano entry. They'll be making a right-hand turn and then up the ramp into the volcano fairly shortly. But all the group is still together. They've got one more sprint to go, and then on the lap afterwards, they'll be contesting it for first over the line finish points. So going along quite nicely.
It's the kind of gap that could be quite dangerous on the last lap. 7 seconds is enough to TT away if you're prepared to absolutely put everything into the gap.
I think also with the Seas having fastest free segment on the final sprint and first over the line on the finish line, I would think that strategy in terms of points accumulation is probably not the best. Whilst you might get, let's say, an extra 369 points on the finish line, you're probably going to lose anything up to 30 on the actual fastest free segment element of that final sprint. So we'll have to see how that one plays out over the line. Yeah, absolutely, and like you say, depends on what sort of calibre their sprinting is at.
I still think and having copped it, there's a danger in waiting for the end anyway. If someone actually times their attack properly and has the legs to go and do a decent effort as well, then sitting in and expecting it to come to the last sprint can be fairly dangerous. For the C race, I would expect fireworks going off well into the S's. Mainly because that's where I would try to cause them.
Yeah.
No, exactly. So, like, to clarify, I wouldn't be trying to get away. I'd just be trying to make it very, very difficult for everyone else to stick with me. But then, as we've kind of touched on, I'm a fairly big guy with a fair amount of watts. The S's is something that I can deal with the up-down nature of them. So.
Great job from our ladies in the C's. In terms of the B's, we are just coming up to the last of the S's, so that gap did come down a little bit, but the C's did still manage to stay away as we just hit the ramp before the downhill towards the sprint section. This group is still very much all together. And
there would be another lap after this one for the Bees, wouldn't there, James?
There is, yep. One to go after we get over the sprint line. And we have just crested the hill and we're just doing the descent before the left-hand turn. So this will be the last of the classified sprints. With it just being first over the line on the final lap. LRN is positioned beautifully as we just take the left-hand turn and off we go yet again. And over the line in fourth wheel. Another solid sprint. Can't see the times. Wasn't able to beat her PB from, I think, sprint 4, but it certainly looked like another good effort. And we are on to the final lap. Let's get a Margaret update.
So, Margaret is moving along. She's got over a minute lead on 13th place. She's in 12th, and is because there's a group of A's in between. I can't really see what her gap is to the front, but it's in the range of a minute as well. So she's doing a solo effort, and looks like she's going to come around and almost certainly going to finish in 12th place.
Well done, Margaret. How far has she got left to go?
So she should have. So she's crossing the land bridge right now. So that should be about 5 kilometers, I think.
Yeah,
that
I think
sounds
so.
about right to me.
Yeah.
Kim is currently sitting in 9th, so she will finish 9th. I believe she's actually been riding with one of the C riders, because her position isn't changing as they share the lead. So again, not 100% certain on what the gap to the riders in front or behind are, but she's done a great effort to stick with this rider when she's been surging away on the hills.
Just in the Bs, they are on the land bridge. I think I can see Margaret a little bit up the road, so we might overtake her in the next 5 minutes. But it's, as you were, everyone in this group still. Group of 18. And about 3 kilometres left to go in the race. Yeah, no, the entire B field has been together from start to finish, or well, start to now anyway, not too far away from the finish, as we just hit the ramp up into the volcano for the final time. This is one of the potential points where we could see a little bit of a split, but it's definitely not looking to be the case, as they're all very, very tightly mixed together. So we're over the ramp now into the volcano, not too far to go.
So Kim is heading down towards the final sprint. Only a couple of 100 meters to go now, so she's just got to go around the left, then onto the bridge, and she's finished. A great ride for 9th on the line. So that's an impressive effort. I'd just like to apologise again to everyone for my tech difficulties. That's been really annoying from my end. So another good sprint from Kim. Big effort to finish off, and that's 9th on the line.
Well done, Kim. We are still in the volcano, not for too much longer, and then we'll head on to the S's with the B's. So not far to go at all. Just a reminder again that next week we'll have another points race on Tuesday. Be 2 laps of the Harrogate UCI route. which I think comes in about 29 kilometers, and it is very, very, very up, down, up, down. You don't get too much in the way of flat, but we will have fastest through segment points on both the sprints and both the KOMs, so that'll be something to look forward to as well. We're out of the volcano and we are starting to head towards the bridge, after which we will take on the S's.
And it's a very big group of bees, isn't it, James? Like, the entire field is there and they are moving.
Yeah, currently doing about 45 kilometers an hour. We just hit another little bump on the road, but the pace does seem to have picked up a little bit for the last lap. We are just about to turn right onto the bridge.
So I've been watching the bees after the C's have finished here, and I'm definitely watching Lisa. I don't know whether she's hurting a bit. I don't think it doesn't look it. I think she is definitely conserving as much as possible. She looked very good, kind of moving to the front on the little bumps through the volcano, but is doing very well in the fight for last wheel in this tight group right now. So hopefully that means she's got a lot left for this last trip through the S's, when you think things will probably heat up.
And she's also doing really well in keeping her power very, very low while staying at last wheel. I think there was a few times then, because I'm watching Lisa as well to finish the race off, a few times then I could see her power drop down below 2 watts a kilo, which is a phenomenal job to sit at its last wheel and hold that.
Yeah, so important to conserve as much as you possibly can before the final sprint. We are just hitting the S's, so we only really have one possible point where an attack could go off, and that'll be on the last of the S's, where it hits 6-7%. So I don't know if we'll see anything happen on that bit. We are just coming up to Margaret, who is just 2 seconds up the road, so I think she's going to finish around about the same sort of time as the bees. So great effort from Margaret.
That is a fantastic solo effort, and yes, she does appear to be on a TT bike on my screen too. So that's a solid effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done, Margaret. Halfway through the S's now. Only a couple more corners to go until we get through them. But this group is staying very much together. Eloranic is currently sat 4th wheel. 2 more corners.
Lisa's tailgunning it brilliantly. She's just sitting there right on the back of the group. There's a few riders that are drifting off the back a little bit, but Lisa's holding the last wheel of the main blob.
And here we are on the last of the rollers, hitting 6%. Do not appear to be any breaks. So it's going to be one hell of a mass sprint as we go down the hill. Lisa's positioned well, Eloranique's positioned well. Just cresting the top of the incline. Eloranique just dropping back a little bit, and it does appear to have kicked on the front. So this sprint is definitely going to start a bit earlier than previous laps. So have our girls got anything left to be able to kick on with? Down the bottom hill, left-hand turn now. Can see the sprint banner. Have they got anything left? Lisa looks to be going very strongly, a few wheels in front.
Lisa's doing brilliantly. She's looks like 5th on the line. That's going to be just going to hold it coming over, and that's 6th on the line. Great.
Eloranique over in 8th as well. So great job. And let's just, Craig, we can switch to Margaret for the end of her race.
Absolutely. Maybe. Sorry about that. And there we go, as Margaret hits the sprint for the last time. And
Big effort from Margaret on the sprint for the last one. That's some good power there. And across the line and done. That's a great effort from Margaret. Again, sorry for my technical fails today, everyone. That was entirely my own fault.
as opposed to the audio fails that were my fault, for which I also apologize. But we have to stay
We're
on
a professional bunch here in the herd.
Oh, absolutely. Pride ourselves on our professionalism constantly. Big thanks today to Ben and Craig for joining me. Big thanks to all of our ladies we've been following today, and for everyone else who's been taking part, and for everyone that's been watching. We will be back next Tuesday without Craig, so the technical aspect will be entirely down to me, so expect it to be very broken. But we will be back somehow next week, and we'll look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks very much.
Thanks.